Hello, Alex Lafkus here. I'm going to tie a little flash whistler, which is kind of an old school pattern with a few little twists on it. It's going to be kind of similar to this. This is the single hook version, and we're going to tie a little two hook version. So that's kind of what we're aiming for. Anyway, first step. I'm going to grab a 10 millimeter shank, or no, 20 mil, sorry. 20 mil. This is once again these old style shanks. And I'm going to be using, on this one, it is going to be on the Arex Trout Predator 1 with a number 2 B10S stinger in the back. I went to go purchase some of the Trout Predator lights, and they happen to be out of stock. So they are on order because I bitch and moan a lot, so they're going to get some in. So first thing we're going to do, I like this B10S when I'm doing these shanks off the back. This is going to be tied into the hook, so it's going to be very similar to that stillwater baitfish, but it's going to be a little bit more with the articulation. So some of the stuff I'm going to use, I'm going to add some flash, but not a ton. This product is a matte finished flashabou. Okay, so I really like this. I don't know, it kind of looks shiny in that on the camera, but it's matte finished. Midwest Bucktails has this stuff in a few different colors. I'll show you a little logo of it. This is just the stuff he's making, but it's Midwest Bucktails. This is the chestnut color. Just because I'm doing yellow and ginger, I'm going to do the chestnut. I'm going to throw a little flash in there too, but not a ton. I really like this stuff because I can get, it's a little stiffer than flashabou, but not terribly, but you know, still enough to create some movement off the back. So this is going to be the tail. So like a flashy Deceiver or a Flashtail was an old school pattern, and you're just running this off the back. So I'm gonna give it a few wraps, fold it over, kind of get my little bit of junk here. You know, I will be using very little materials as usual. I come in here, hey, kind of trimmed a length. You know, on a lot of these patterns, if you tie that flash in just on the bend of the hook, they do have a tendency to foul. So I'm going to do it off the shank, off the back, which will just give it a little bit more area to hopefully not foul as frequently. Well, I know it won't foul as frequently. I'm going to mix in a little standard of the gold holographic flash too. Just a little bit. So I'm going to have a little bit of each on there. And that'll give you your, hence the name, Flashtail. Whistler, Deceiver, whatever. It's kind of more based off of Flashtail Whistler that I believe it was Dan Blanton tied out in the Sacramento River Delta for stripers and whatnot. So there we go, get it about right. So we're going a little heavy. I know you guys are used to me tying with zero flash. Well, here you go. There's some flash. So that'll give it a little light, give it a little two different colors on the backside. Then from there, I'm just going to pull off a little bit of schlopping. So we're just going to do kind of just put a little feather tail on the backside of it with that hackle. I'm going to use some of my old rooster saddles. You know, there's a little ginger. We're going to mix a little ginger with that yellow because it looks good. And this is we're going to keep this pretty simple. The one hook version is very easy to tie. This is just one more step, but it's just another little chunk of buck hair on there, and you're done. So then we'll just kind of wrap this in here, and you don't want to go all the way up the shank because you're going to be wrapping that in on the onto the hook. So whatever, you just nice and easy take your schlopping. I wrap them both at the same time, blah, whatever. But it'll give you that nice little variegated look, and you know, it's pretty. It's just so pretty. Does it matter? Eh. That's very debatable. Probably not at all, but man, it does look good. So, and you can tell, like, a lot of my tying lately has been smaller flies, but that's, you know, it's kind of that time of year where we're doing, you know, I'm thinking more along the lines like that. We're gonna go smallmouth fish tomorrow with Christian Aguilera, and we're gonna go smallmouth fish down, I think, on the Grand. So I'm tying up a couple to take down there. I'm gonna do some yellow because, well, yellow's really fun to fish. I'm just gonna hit this with a ton of whip finishes because we wouldn't want it to die. Thread broke, perfect time for that. Boom, done. Now we're gonna connect that to the B10S number 2. And I'm just gonna keep with this Vivis 6-aught and just, I'm gonna use this to start, and I'll end up probably switching. Yeah, I got a little thicker thread laying around that I'll probably add when I start tying that bucktail in, because bucktail breaks about every type of thread there is. So I use that Danville 210. Let's see, so that's going to be back away and a little stiffer, so it's not going to foul on that hook as frequently. So then you just lash it in. And when you don't have a hook back there, it's, you know, kind of less important to really worry about it. One thing I do like to do though, and that eye is going to hold it pretty good in place, you know, see how it's just kind of sitting right on top there. Some of them I've been gluing it on there too, you know, like running some of that Loon UV cure and then putting a little coat of Sally Hansen's over top just because it makes it less tacky. I'm going to build a little taper of thread up here just so when I'm wrapping my little body material up, it kind of will not slide and be a big gap. It just kind of tapers better, but once again, doesn't matter. Does not matter. And you get to burn through a lot more thread, so that's awesome. I would recommend, I really do like this matte finished Flashabou. I've been using it, you know, like, because I tie some of these on the white. Like, here's a picture of or not a picture, but here's an actual big gray and white one I've run down there. And that's just solid gray back there. No flash to it with a white minnow head. I only have one olive and white left from down there, but that was a good fly to me last year. You know, whatever. Those are more in like the 6-inch category. But I like this brown and ginger, brown and yellow, you know, whatever. I'm going to hit this with some Sally Hansen's actually just to firm it up a little bit. I do like that stuff in the fall, and we get a lot of sunny days, and it seems like between the sunny days and that kind of afternoon golden hour of light, that yellow does work, and so does the ginger. So we're just going to slap that on there. I'm going to give it a few seconds to dry. Shouldn't take too long. And then we'll come back, and I'm going to put on, you know, my medium tan Palmer chenille. But let's give it a second to dry. Okay, so the Sally Hansen's is dried. I'm going to go ahead and tie in my thicker thread now as well, because I like it for bucktail, and that's just enough to stiffen that up. Okay, so then we're just going to go in, tie in our medium Palmer chenille, and we're just using this as a body filler, so no big deal. Just a little zip up. And we just got to leave enough room to finish off our bucktail. One thing to keep in mind too with this stuff is, like, when you're using not a long chunk of bucktail, so like we're just using kind of a small area. I know I kind of gapped it there. Oh well, doesn't matter. seems like you need more product because you're not using as much, so your tips are only so thick that it seems like I use more. So I just want to make sure I'm giving myself enough room at the eye of the hook to get it in how I want it. I'm just constantly untwisting this, so hopefully it continues to lay back as I continue to wrap. You can see I'm just kind of working it with my fingers to untwist it. I'm probably doing it plenty tight enough. So, and like if I was tying a single, I'd probably stop like right there, and I'd add the bead chain and then start doing the buck hair and the brush. But so like I still have enough room, but whatever. But this one, this is just the rear hook to a 2-hooked fly. It's going to be my little baby brown trout in the sun when we get to that time of year, which is approaching, as it is 90 degrees out today. We are in late August. We had some cold nights already, so things are starting to happen. We just hit a little hitch in everything, which is pretty normal this time of year. So there you can see that nice mix in that tail. All right. So we're going to do some yellow on the bottom. As I said, yellow and ginger. Baby brown trout colors. You could dull it down too. I got a feeling that like they make some brown holographic flash. It would probably look good in the tail. Whatever. Have fun with it. Put orange back there. Who knows? I like this flat stuff from Midwest Bucktail Company. And I get to pay retail for it like everyone else, but it's fine. It doesn't matter. It's a pretty cool product. Flashabou is about the only one out there that makes the only color they make is a matte white, which is nice on some stuff, but I like the fact that Midwest Bucktails is offering those other colors. This one, as I've mentioned before, is the chestnut, which is just kind of like a brown, kind of gingerish, brownish, whatever. So now I'm just getting the tips kind of even by hand on my bucktail. There you go. That looks about right. And then I'm going to angle it. There's not going to be a ton of length there. See, I just want my tips kind of touching. I don't know how well you can see it. You'll probably see it with the ginger better, but my tips are kind of right at the tips off that schlappen. And I'm just trying to do that to keep some sort of taper, you know, so it looks a little bit right. Maybe I should have used yellow thread, or not yellow, pardon me, white, but here we are. Whatever, man. You use what's out. At least that's the way I do it. Still using my dull scissors, which is really not smart, but you know, my new ones won't stay sharp if I start using them, so it's nice just to keep those in back stock so I know I do have a good sharp pair, which actually is not very smart because they're not doing me any good sitting in the pack, but whatever. And I'll probably just keep these around once I'm done with start using the sharp ones. I'll put a little piece of electrical tape on the handle of these so I know which ones are for cutting wire and such, which has probably shortened up the life expectancy of these scissors, but man, when you're going, it's like, oh, look for another tool or not, and I usually lean towards or not. So I'm just going to sit here with my ginger now and just kind of get the tips even. Doesn't have to be perfect. Frankly, it doesn't look great when it is perfect. You know, you can run them in a stacker if you want them perfect, but I usually don't like the looks of that. I like it just a little more natural, where it's just a little, some pieces a little longer, some a little shorter. And then we're just going to go even tips, boom. And you'll notice, like, when I tie bucktail, I'll put a lot of heat on it there, so that's why I go to that little thicker thread, so I can really put heat on it. I do not like gel spun for it. It's slick. There's sometimes I use gel spun, but I don't really like it on bucktail a ton. Just Slick, man. There you go. And that gets you that flare that you're looking at. So there you go. You got a little fishy profile back there. Okay. So now back hook is essentially done. A couple trims of this. A little bit of ball of thread. A little bit of Sally Hansen's, and we're good to go. You know, yeah, white would have looked better, but whatever. If I really cared, maybe I do. I would take some white thread and put it over it, which I may do. You don't have to be present for that. I can. Yeah, probably should use white. I grabbed the black that was out. Whatever. There it is. Well, my OCD got me. So I did switch to white thread. So now real simple. Give yourself a little room there to put your beads in there. Bead chains, bead chains, bead chains. You know, and you can really tie this with whatever weight you want, obviously. You know, like I mentioned earlier, I'm tying for, you know, pre-spawn, which means most likely lower water, smaller flies. So I'm just gonna do the bead chains. If I'm doing the singles, I kind of like the small bead chain eyes because they are not too heavy. I've tied a few of the singles with the medium bead chains, and it just seems like a little too much. So I throw a bead on the floor. Oh well, we got more. Oh, these are those Netcraft Pro Eye deals. I don't know, it doesn't matter, but they're kind of cool looking. You can see I kind of hacked together a head on there because, well, I thought I needed white thread. I guess if I'd had tan, that would have been fine too, but kind of with a lot of my streamer threads, it's either white or black. There we go, pretty much straight off the back there. Hold tight, just a little wiggle out the rear end on it. That's going to be fine. Get my little material clip to hold it there. That's that 30-pound Maxima again. £30 Maxima Chameleon. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to go up, and just behind the eye, I'm going to put in my bead chains. So I like my bead chains pretty tight to the eye of the fly. I just want to leave enough room that I can put one wrap of my minnow head or chromatic brush there and finish the fly off. So they're going to be pretty tight up there. You know, I always put them on the bottom of the hook. I like hook setting into the softest part of their mouth. So that should be enough room there though for both to finish it off in one wrap. So then we're just going to come back. You could hit that with glue right now too. In fact, I might. I don't know how much it matters if a fish really totals it or blasts it. By the time I get up there, all that'll be dry anyway. Back to the medium polymer chenille. You know, just trying to keep it simple. Don't. Oh, I'm sure there's 8 million other materials that will work for this, or that might do a little bit of something different, or you might think it will, but oh, I don't know. I don't own a fly shop, so what's the point of owning? I don't know. I own too much stuff as it is. But if you can get away with fewer, I just think it makes life easier. And that's about where I'm going to tie the bucktail in too, is where I quit wrapping my my mono loop is at, or where my mono has ended at. And we're just going to kind of, yeah, it flipped on me, so we'll just kind of work it back, and eventually it'll turn over again. There it goes. But this is I don't know, I've always liked this color on sunny days. It's just, especially around the spawn, man, those browns get really territorial towards other browns being in their way. So, and this is a little bit bigger, you know, like if I'm fishing way up on the upper Manistee or a tiny little piece of river, I probably will be running a little bit smaller stuff. You know, when I start getting down into that, some rivers that are like 1,000 CFS, say, roughly, you know, we got a few of them in the state, I do have a tendency to go just a little bit bigger. Whether it be, you know, if it's super low and clear, until you get to post spawn and those fish are really looking to bulk up in a hurry because winter's around the corner, you know, you're going to catch more fish on 4 to 6 inch, 4 and 5, 3 to 5, you know, stuff like that. You catch more. Will you get the biggest? You know, that's kind of a day-to-day thing. I've caught some really big fish on 4-inch flies in low water. So, you know, I mean, I don't know that I've broke 27, but I've had clients get them up to 26 or so, 26 and a half. So, I don't know, whatever. I guess we got a few over, yeah, I've gotten a few over 26 on smaller stuff. So, whatever. And I have caught some big fish, though, in 7-8 inch stuff. When it's pre-spawn and low water, it's just that things better be perfect. You need the whole world to be aligned, whether it's moon phase, weather conditions, whatever it is. There's a lot, you know, it seems like that window is short when it occurs versus, you know, this other stuff that is more of a consistent day in, day out producer. And the more I guide, the more I'm leaning more into that, just because, you know, you got to catch fish. And you got to catch fish a lot of times to have a chance at a big fish. So, whatever. And then I'm going to take this back now a little further. So I kind of want it to taper. You know, I'm looking at it and I'm going, yeah, that's about right. Tips are kind of lined up with that stuff in the back. A little bit longer maybe. There you go. That should be about right. A lot of this is just a rough estimate. You know, it's going to be close enough. What the big thing is it's going to have kind of a fishy profile and it's going to move good. If you go too much weight in the head, you know, you're going to get it to do the dip in the fall and not much side to side. I do like the dip and fall, don't get me wrong. You know, there's times where, especially cold weather seasons, cold water times, where it's like, you know, that a lot of times you're keying in on that stuff because a lot of your bait is fleeing to the bottom. You know, when they're eating sculpins and, you know, the bait fish activity has, you know, is non-existent or is way lower than typical, you know, in cold water, 40-some degree water, you know, about everything they're eating is fleeing towards the bottom. So it's more of a natural presentation. No, it doesn't mean all fish will be caught doing that, but it's just, you know, something to keep in mind. Something to keep in mind. So I'm going to always have a little bit of everything that does a few different things, and you kind of read the fish. You know, you can see days where, you know, and I've had this recently even where like just fishing a wet skunk and compared to a weighted streamer, it was like there got to be a certain point in time where I'm like, man, they just don't seem to be coming up and grabbing it, and sometimes you got to feed them a little bit deeper. So it's, and you'll see it, like sometimes they'll show you, like I've had days where those fish start rolling and they're rolling like a foot underneath the fly. And those type of days I've been able to trigger them by switching to something with little weight that it's not staying on the bottom, but they'll come out and chase it and chase it. And then when it dips its head and starts going back towards them, they jump it. And all of a sudden you're turning a lot of your follows, or what would be follows, into eats. But it's reading that fish's behavior. It's reading fish in general, their behavior through your fishing process. You know, if you're not moving anything, it's hard to say, but, and there are those days as well. So we're just going to kind of get our ginger and our yellow, kind of spread it out. You could put some peacock in there if you really wanted, or underneath the wing. So, and then I'm going to, you know, once again, section off that bucktail just to get it a little dig. And I'm going to take some of this to the front too, you know, so it's like I'm kind of figure eighting it over those bead chains. Not figure eighting it, I should say, but tying it in, and that way it kind of, I'll be able to trim it up and it'll keep that little angle going forward, which will help when I wrap the brush. I think it'll help. And then I should have enough room still there, even with my dull scissors, that you could probably run with now and not even injure yourself if you fell. And I'm just going to kind of build some thread up over this. Leaving a little bit of material isn't bad either, because it gives the brush something to kind of dig into. Ooh, man, I like that. You know, it's weird seeing me put like orange eyes on something, because I usually don't do that, but it does kind of pop. I gotta admit it. It does look good. Probably doesn't matter, but it does look pretty fun. There you go. So this is, I think this is a semi-chromatic 1.5 incher in brown. Chocolate, they claim. I like the minnow heads a little bit more. It seems like they're a little more dense. I happen to have this in the brown right now, and until I run out, I'm not going to buy the other minnow head stuff. But one day I will. I'm just, you know, like I've mentioned before in these videos, let's just use what I have first, and then we'll worry about getting the stuff I like more. I did go ahead, I didn't have a gray one, so I bought the minnow head in gray today while I was at the fly shop. There, I'm going to give it a little extra, and you can see that that minnow brush, or this little brush, kind of wraps on itself, which, you know, you just got to take a second to brush it out. Give a couple wraps over. Oh yeah, that'll be fine. And I'm just going to get a couple wraps of thread, a couple whip finishes in there, and it's going to be fine. I might have jammed it. I probably did one too many wraps of that brush, but it'll be fine. As long as I can fit some 12 or 14 pound through it, we're going to be good. But you want to go in and pick this out. It's probably safer to do your whip finish first, you know, just to make sure things don't all explode. But, you know, it's nothing like freaking out and getting angry over preventable things when you can. So we try to get a little bit of that happening in my life. And you can see that kind of helped that head kind of stand out a little bit more. And that, you know, like I think I mentioned in one of my brush videos too, like, a lot of times I don't mind doing the, oh, perfect, the GSP for the brush. I probably hit that. No, I don't know. I don't mind doing the GSP for the brush, like once I get all the bucktail tied in and stuff, because that way it, then it's just so thin and super strong that you can really weld that in there and push it back, and you'll just have a tiny little ball of thread at the head instead of this giant thing from that Danville 210. But boy, I do use a lot of Danville 210 with bucktail. There, we're gonna gob some stuff on there, and that's our guy. I did good on this last fall, you know, so just getting another one into the arsenal, as those got beat up pretty good. But that's it, man. Little flashy Deceiver, pretty simple tie, you know. this compared to the single hook one. This is a single hook with the medium eyes on it. And I had a single hook with the small eyes on it, which you can't really even see on it, but I don't know where it went. It's somewhere in one of my disastrous piles. Here's the other one with the small. So you can see how small those are. Just a couple little baitfish things to pitch around this fall. So whatever. Hope that was pretty fun to tie. That's cool. Olive and yellow, you know, gray and white, ginger yellow, straight yellow, all your typical baitfish stuff. Chartreuse and white, whatever. You just mix it up. But easy to cast, super lightweight. Pretty cool little bug. Oh, hope you enjoyed that, guys. Thanks.